supplemental services through the other programs. So I think that there's no gotta get to you. We just need to figure out balance. Yeah, definitely.
It might be. Ready? All right, we're gonna get started. Testing.
Hold on.
How about now? Can you hear me now? No, still nothing. There we go. Woo! The sound of my voice. That's fun. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Where am I here? So I'm gonna call to order the PCOE regular board meeting, and Matt, who usually does some of that last week. Straight ahead.
There we go. All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here. Here.
here.
Wonderful. I will entertain a motion to approve the PCOE agenda with an amendment to remove item 11D.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Andrea to give us the PCOE superintendent's report.
Good evening. This is a new item that we're adding to all of the agendas, a superintendent report, so that we can keep everyone informed of what's happening on the county office of ed side. So tonight, it's just a brief update regarding county operations and ongoing fiscal work. As reflected in the materials included in the board packets, the county office of ed is moving forward with a reduction in force on the county side. These actions will be brought forward through a resolution. The information was shared in the board packet so that you all saw that. The reduction in force include positions that were previously supported through grant funding, which has ended, as well as a position that is funded as a bill back to the district. In addition to all of the work we've been doing on the county office of ed side, we've been deeply engaged in working on the county budget. Our focus has been to intentionally develop a budget that aligns with core services that the county office of ed is responsible for providing. This type of deliberate service aligned budgeting has not been done in a while, and we are committed to doing the work thoroughly and responsible. Once the county budget is finalized and the layout process has been completed, we will begin reviewing which programs or positions may be appropriate to bring back on the county side, provided they clearly align with the county office of ed's scope of work. Any decisions to move programs or positions to the county side will be made with careful consideration of fiscal responsibility and long-term financial stability. As it is essential that the county budget remains fiscally sound with any changes that are made. That concludes my update for now.
Thank you, Andrea. At this time, I'm going to entertain public input. No action or discussion shall be undertaken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda, except that members of the Board of Lewis County Office of Education staff may briefly respond to the statements made or questions posed. There is a 3-minute time limit for each person who's addressing Jeopardy board, and I'll ask Chelsea to set a timer for us. And the first one that I have for the PCOE meeting is Jared Morgan. If you'd like to come up, Jared.
Actually, Chelsea, there's a timer we left live.
Oh, wonderful, look at that. Problem solved. I'm gonna give you this microphone.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jared Morgan and I'm a parent of students in this district, and I've attended both community meetings in Portola. At one meeting I had asked how funds were built between district and county office for shared employees, and I was told it wasn't clear. The 2024 California School Accounting Manual approved by CDE under Ed Code 41110 states in Procedure 905 that LEAs must maintain time documentation to support salary charges to restricted funds If employees are paid from multiple funding sources, there should be clear documentation of how this is allocated. That is basic fiscal accountability. I'm also concerned that the county funds continue to grow while the single district it oversees struggles financially. The organizational chart shows significant overlap between county and district positions. If positions are shared, their funding and time allocation should be transparent and clearly separated. The district audit shows that it did not meet the 55% minimum expenditure requirement for classroom teachers and aides under Ed Code 41372, reaching only 51% and requiring a waiver. With additional certificated and classified layoffs planned, that percentage will decline further. I urge the board to carefully consider whether you approving that waiver for this shortfall is truly in the best interest of the students. The district was also fined $132,000 under Ed Code 41402 for exceeding the administrator to teacher ratio. With upcoming layoffs, that penalty could increase. A clearer and more logical separation of county district roles may impact that calculation and reduce burden on the district further. Finally, we must stop the cycle of bringing and placing individuals into highly complex leadership roles without sufficient experience, as well as paying further credentials and certifications. The recent CBO job posting as an example. I raised concerns at the Portola community meeting about the minimum qualifications that were listed for this critical financial position. Given the financial challenges facing the district, a challenge even to hit that, experience and proven expertise are essential. I am hopeful that the most qualified individual was found, not someone that lacks experience but was convenient because of who they know. I appreciate the difficult position you're in, but you do have authority over the county office and the issues I presented today. I ask that you prioritize transparency, fiscal accountability, student-centered decision-making. Thank you for your time.
Or do we have any other public comment for this? All right, I'm going to move on to fiscal. Heather Rubio is going to give us an audit report versus producer.
Oh, I was just gonna introduce her. Thanks, Hi, so as you're aware, this is a presentation of the 24-25 audit. So please keep in mind that this is about activities and financial statements that happened before a lot of our transitions occurred. We are already taking significant action and you will see an improved audit in 25-26, but please keep in mind that most action was not something we could have prevented because it was already complete as I came in May. Thank you so much. This is Heather Rubio, our county office auditor.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Heather Rubio. I am a partner at Christie White Associates, which is an independent audit firm. So we are independent from the district and we conduct your financial, state, and federal compliance audits. I want to start off, would you like me to share a screen in this matter, or do you have the audit report in front of you and I can just go to pages? How would you guys like?
Audit report in front of them.
Okay, perfect. So you are required to have an independent audit annually of your financial statements. These are the unaudited actuals that are finalized typically in October. Once those are finalized, we audit them. Last year, just to kind of give you an idea, this audit was completed, if I'm correct, was it May or June? A little further out. This audit is technically due to the state actually by December 15th. So it should be completed by December 15th. This year is a little unique because two things happened. The federal government had not finalized their compliance guide, and there was a federal government shutdown, which allowed all the audits to be extended for another 30 days. So that's where this audit was submitted on January 30th. So just to kind of give you an idea of the timing. To summarize the results of the audit, I want to start off with page 1, which is the independent auditor's opinion, to give you a little bit about this one. So on page 1, we are saying that on the government-wide statements and your county school service fund, we are issuing a qualified opinion. So that essentially means there are some areas of the financials, and it was the same similar issue last year. And I think that's what Stephanie would mention is this was an issue last year, except the reason I went through the timing of the audits is you were almost finished with 24 because of the year. So let me explain. You're almost finished with 24, 25's books when you received the 23, 24 audit, right? So you received the audit the year prior when you were closing the books for this particular audit, not giving you the amount of time to make the changes necessary. That's why it's really important to have a timely audit, right? So you receive the results. And so this gives you a little bit more opportunity and time to make those changes. So you issued a qualified opinion, which is not necessarily the best opinion. And the reason being is because of your accounts payable and your accounts receivable accruals. There is a process in monitoring those accruals, checking the prior years, clearing those out, and ensuring the correct. We were not able to fully verify those. And so therefore, that's the reason for the qualified opinion. We were able to verify it on the remaining fund information. So for those funds, you have an unmodified opinion, just to give you an idea. So then I'm not going to take you through the detail unless you have questions of any specific pages, but I want to take you to the summary of our audit results, which is page 67 to go over. So like I had mentioned, you have a qualified opinion on your financial statements. That is a result of the accounts payable and accounts receivable accruals, because we believe there should be a better system in place to ensure that you're clearing out the prior year accruals and then ensuring the current year accounts payable and accounts receivable are accrued for correctly. Otherwise, we did not come across any other significant deficiencies or compliance material to the financial statements. This year, for federal awards, you fell below the $750,000 threshold in expenses. So therefore, there was no opinion in that area. For state awards, for the county office, and I think similar to last year, we did not identify any material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or come across anything that we deemed an audit finding for the areas that were required to be audited. And those are related to your attendance, your instructional materials, your GAN limit calculation, your school accountability report cards, comprehensive school safety plans, Prop 28, your education protection accounts, unduplicated pupil counts, the LCAP, educator effectiveness, your ELOG, career technical, expanded learning opportunity program, and I think that was it. So just to give you kind of a background on that. Overall, that is the summary of the audit. I do, again, want to say this, so your audit technically is on time this year. So I do want to congratulate the district on having a more timely audit, and hopefully that helps impact the changes made going forward. And I do want to thank the team. The response of this year was amazing. So we were able to complete the audit and the support provided. And so I do want to thank the team for the response times this year compared to previous years. Do you have any specific questions I can answer?
Thank you, Heather. All right, moving on to student achievement. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Thank you.
No, she just asked if there was any specific questions I could respond to her.
Or is there any specific questions you'd like to ask? Okay. Heather, thank you. I will move on to achievement. Leslie Leon.
No, you're fine.
Barb, can you give us some thanks?
That's really great.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Barb's queuing us up. I have the pleasure of presenting a quick summary of the LCAP mid-year review for you tonight. All right, the LCAP, two things at once. The Local Control and Accountability Plan, or LCAP, is a 3-year plan that explains how districts will improve student learning and use state funding to meet our goals. We are in year 2 of a 3-year LCAP cycle, and we developed one LCAP for PCOE and PUSD, so you'll see this as an information-only item on both board agendas. Our LCAP explains how additional funding is budgeted to increase services and supports for students with the greatest need, including low-income students, English learners, students in foster care, and students experiencing homelessness. Senate Bill 114 in 2023 added a requirement to provide an annual update to the LCAP on or before February 28th at a regularly scheduled board meeting, and we must include any available mid-year outcome data and expenditures. Our expected annual measurable objectives on our LCAP are a 3% increase in CASP and LPAC, college and career readiness indicators, the percentage of students who pass an AP exam with a score of 3 or higher, a 3% reduction in chronic absenteeism and high school dropout rates, a 4% decrease in suspension rates, 5% increase in English learner reclassification rates, facilities rated in good condition, and reduce our expulsion rate to 0% by 2027. Most of our student achievement data can be found on the California dashboard, which is typically released in the middle of December. They use a color coding system, and blue is excellent performance or significant improvement, green is good performance, yellow is average or mixed performance, orange is below average performance, and red is the lowest performance level. On our 2025 dashboard, this is our student population information. Our enrollment was 1,671 students. 53.9% of them were socioeconomically disadvantaged. 4.6 are English learners, and 1.6 of our students are foster youth. A quick summary of our dashboard. For chronic absenteeism, our rate declined by 4%. We are in the yellow. We met our annual goal. For suspension rate, we declined 0.5%, we did not meet our annual goal, and we are in the yellow. For English learner progress, we are in the green, we increased by 5%, and we met our annual goal. Graduation rate increased by 1.8%, we are in the green, but we did not meet our annual goal. College and career indicators, that's A through G, CTE, AP, et cetera, increased by 6.1%, and we exceeded our annual goal. For ELA and math, we are in the orange, we maintained progress, but we have no growth and our goal is not met. We have 8 LCAP goals. Our first goal is student success and well-being, and our actions for 25-26 are to provide EL support our alt ed and expelled youth, provide additional social emotional supports for our students, positive behavioral interventions and supports, you hear PBIS from us a lot, provide expanded learning opportunities for our after-school and summer programming, career technical education at high schools based on enrollment and student needs. We are fully implemented for the 25-26 school year, with the exception that we have expiring grant funds to support additional SEL supports. Continuing goal 1, our action items are to conduct a diagnostic. We use the iReady assessment, we're fully implemented there. Provide a learning management system for our teachers. Most of our high school teachers use this, and it's Canvas, we're fully implemented. Expand access to arts education and provide library support services. We're fully implemented for 25-26. Goal number 2 is financial sustainability. And our only action item is to eliminate the PUSD structural deficit, and that is obviously an ongoing implementation. Goal 3 is staff recruitment and retention. Our action items are to provide PD, professional development for our staff, provide feedback through a tool called Evaluated for observation and evaluations, and new teacher and new administrator induction, and we are fully implemented. Goal 4 is family and community engagement. Our action items are to enhance parent and caregiver participation rates and provide meals to all of our students at no cost, and we are fully implemented. Goal 5 are facilities. Our action items are to implement the technology study recommendations, and that is an ongoing implementation. Provide student devices. We're fully implemented, but this school year it's for grades 1 through 12. We did remove Chromebooks for grades TK through K starting 25-26. We have a staff computer replacement plan. Another goal is hire and support technology support staff, and then deferred and routine maintenance. Those are fully implemented. Goal 6 is leadership. staff support through vice principals, ADs, teachers on special assignments based on site need and enrollment, and we are fully implemented there. Goal 7, this is the use of equity multiplier funds, and our action item is to improve staff retention at Jim Beckworth High School to, using the funds to support salary costs there, and we're fully implemented. And our final LCAP goal we added last year, and that's the use of learning recovery block grant funds. And in order to create goals for this, we had to complete a required needs assessment. And as you know, math is a critical area of need for us. It's also a math adoption. We're in the math adoption cycle through the CDE. So our action items are to use learning recovery block grants to support math, the math adoption cycle, but also provide PD for our teachers. This is an in progress. And we are actually using PCOE math and science grant funds first that will be expiring to pay for this, and then we'll move over to learning recovery block grant funds. You can find the full report in the board packet, and I will provide you another update at the June board meeting.
Thank you. All right, moving along, the PCOE service contracts and personnel items. These are information only. Any questions, board? All right, let's see. I'll move on to our consent items. Andrew, did you want to speak to any of this before I do that? In your opening session? Good enough? Just letter D is the agenda amended, not E. Okay. All right, our consent items, minutes from the 1/14/26 board meeting. Barb, we need to approve these, is that correct?
Yes.
Cindy, you weren't there, so you'll abstain. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the 1/14/26 regular board meeting. Did we get it first?
First that, sorry.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. And minutes from the 12/15/25 special board meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve 12/15.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any future agenda items? Okay, I will adjourn the PCOE regular governing board meeting.
Okay, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order at this time. Thank you for joining us, and a special thank you to the students that are joining us this evening. Appreciate you being here. Please join me for the flag salute. The flag's right up there. Ready to salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Attendance? Here. Right. Item number 6 is the approval of the PUSD agenda. And so I approved the agenda. A quick apology, we have to go into a very brief closed session, and then we'll come right back out. It has to do with student matters that can't be discussed in public. So at this time, we will go into closed session, and we'll be back fairly quickly. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will reconvene into open session. The report out from closed session was the approval of both of the stipulated expulsions. Our next item is item number 9, and this is our educational partners update. and Andrea White.
This month's educational partnership update. Last month I shared out that our comprehensive review is up on our website. That is the report that was completed by FICMAT. As we know, FICMAT will come back each year and do follow-up reviews. We have our dates for our next reviews. So they will start with the personnel management, or HR as we call it, May 12th through the 13th. Facilities will be May 13th through the 15th. Pupil achievement will be May 19th through the 21st. And fiscal management will be May 26th through the 27th. And June 1st through the 2nd will be community relations and governance. For a couple of these FICMAT teams, we will do like we did last year and send out a survey with a Google Doc for your information. We will need parent and teacher people to come and meet with them. So as those come up, I will be sending out emails like we did last year, and all of that information will be on our website. As a reminder, updates for anything that happens with FICMAT are always on our website under the fiscal tab. You can always check there for any updated information. As a reminder, this is a board meeting held in public. Public comment is your opportunity to share your views on agenda items. Under the Brown Act, board members may not engage in dialogue with the public during this time. If you ask a question, we cannot respond during the public comment. Please note, speaker time limit of 3 minutes is monitored with a limit of 20 minutes per topic. And that's all I have for this month.
Thank you very much. We have a number of public comments this month, and so I would just ask that you please stick to the 3 minutes so that you can be respectful of everyone who wants to speak this evening. And I do appreciate the public comment and want to hear from you, so thank you for doing that. Our first public comment is Alicia Banning, and then Stuart Clark, and then Shannon Phillips.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Banning, and I'm the president of the Plymouth County Teachers Association. I'm a high school social studies teacher at Portola Junior Senior High School and the proud product of public education. But I'm here today to speak in my most important role. I'm a mother. 2 of my 4 children attended large urban schools where they regularly experienced lockdowns and metal detectors. We moved here in 2021 when I married my husband and was excited that my children would complete their education in a safe community with schools that would treat them like children and not numbers towards an enrollment count. Moving here was a much needed change for me as well. Class sizes were smaller, safer, and the instruction and attention more focused. After 10 years in urban schools where I lost a student to violence each year, Plymouth County was a dream come true. My oldest daughter, now an accounting major at Sac State, had an array of class options available to her at Portola High School. Her educational opportunities provided her with a strong foundation to be a successful student in university. This would not have been possible without the dedicated Plymouth teachers who challenge and encourage all students. My oldest son, now a senior, is already feeling the effects of the cuts. He was unable to take several classes that he wanted to due to the limited master schedule, and I fear what comes for my younger children, now in 8th and 10th grade. For the sake of Plymouth County children, please do not lay off teachers and support staff. Your proposed cuts will hurt every student's access to a wide variety of critical educational opportunities that my eldest children enjoy. The kinds of opportunities that are really important to a child's learning and growth, and the reason many of our children come to our classes every day. Our community is small, rural, and the sad reality is that it is under-resourced already. And if teachers and staff are cut, our students will lose the support that they are entitled to, and may even be more disadvantaged than they already are. As a teacher, and more importantly as a mom, I'm here to advocate and center what Plymouth kids deserve, and I'm asking you to do the same. As the sole decision maker in the district, it's your responsibility to act with the best interest of generations of Plymouth kids in mind. That's why the idea of these short-sighted and dangerous cuts have driven nearly 600 community members to sign our petition in less than a week. And it's also why you see so many people in this room tonight. This is clearly a deeply and widely felt issue that will impact thousands of Plymouth kids. Please consider that when you reevaluate your decisions.
Good evening, Mr. Warren, Ms. White. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I remain Stu Clark, representing PCTA as its vice president. Over the past few months, I have been the primary public voice for our members. On their behalf, I have encouraged increasing collaboration to address our many concerns, fiscal and systematic. I continue to encourage you to actively listen to our concerns. Together, we can accomplish more for the students of Plumas County than we can working in opposition. Tonight, I will be joined by the first installment of a growing chorus of voices, teachers, parents, students, and community members, urging one thing: collaboration. The cuts to staffing proposed tonight are not collaborative. Furthermore, they will absolutely decrease our students' educational opportunities. Reductions in elementary teachers create multi-grade classrooms that always prevent students from maximum access to and achievement in gen ed curriculum. Reductions in career and technical education will necessitate unfortunate and unnecessary reductions in the number of sections available for students to learn vital technical and career skills. Reductions in independent study offerings virtually eliminate opportunities for a group of students who can and want to access curriculum, but are unable to attend in person. The loss of a district-wide instructional coach will certainly hamper, if not fully arrest, major strides in teacher professional development and collaboration that are currently being achieved. How do you plan to meet LCAP goals with these cuts? In short, the cuts will hurt kids. It's not too late to address the numerous other options presented to you to address our financial crisis and recovery without making these draconian cuts. PCTA humbly, passionately, and insistently encourages you. Engage in effective discussion with us and with the public to arrive at better solutions. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Phillips. I'm a third grade teacher at Greenville Elementary School and a parent of a high school student. I'm here tonight to ask you to save as many jobs as possible in order to minimize the impact on our students. Cutting 15 teaching positions and 38 classified positions that are all student-facing will have an impact on every student immediately. Every decision made in this room directly affects classroom instruction, student support, and learning conditions across our district. Last year, our district was fined nearly $150,000 for being out of compliance with Ed Code 41402 due to administrator to teacher ratios, because there were too many administrators. To put that into perspective, that's the salary of 2 full-time teachers who are fairly new for an entire year. My fear is that these proposed cuts will once again put us out of compliance, placing us at risk for another fine at the cost of more teachers. Given our current financial challenges, this is not responsible or a sustainable outcome. When reviewing the organizational chart and district extension list, it's clear that our district office is still significantly overstaffed. National averages, according to my research for the districts of our size, indicate that district offices typically employ between 10 to 18 staff members. Our district has nearly double that number, yet there are no proposed cuts coming from the district office. At the same time, classroom and site-based positions are being eliminated. So as a comparison, when I worked at Susanville, we had 3 schools, Diamond View, McKinley, and Meadowview. That district office was ran by 3 people. That makes, and also Twin Rivers Unified School District in Sacramento, who has 30,000 students, they have 9 people. 9 people in accounting, 2 people in HR, and 2 people in their administration. It's unfathomable that our district office is so overstaffed for the number of students that we have. If student success is truly our priority, which for me as a teacher, that's my goal, that every single student that walks through my doors can show measurable success, socially, emotionally, and academically. The cuts being proposed will impact the learning of every student on every campus in this district. Larger class sizes and fewer supports will be felt immediately, and not a single school community will be untouched. Our students and our communities deserve better than that. Amen. I respectfully urge you to reevaluate this plan, prioritize student-facing positions, and ensure compliance with state law, and make decisions that truly, truly put students first. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Abramson, Bill Reed, and Tanya Hutchins.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michelle Abramson. I currently teach kindergarten, and I have been teaching in Plumas County for 20 years. I am deeply concerned about the negative effect on our students that will result from the increased class sizes and expanded combination classrooms resulting from the proposed cuts. The research is clear. Large class sizes harm student achievement, especially in the early grades when foundational skills are developed. I am here today to ask that you find another way to address budget issues rather than removing classroom staff and educators who support students. The students in my classroom are our earliest learners who need extra support to learn, grow, and thrive. This is not hyperbole or exaggeration. A study from the Brookings Institute shows that smaller class sizes in early elementary grades significantly improve student outcomes. Research published in Educational Researchers finds that when students are in combination classes, they receive less specialized support, especially in reading and math, where sequential learning is critical. The data tells us that if students are not reading at grade level by the end of first grade, they are significantly less likely to catch up later. A study from the Annie E. Casey Foundation found that only about 1 in 5 students who were behind in reading in first grade ever reach reading proficiency by 4th grade. Early reading proficiency is a proven predictor of high school graduation, lifetime earnings, and long-term success. Small class sizes in kindergarten through 3rd grade are themselves a form of early intervention. The Tennessee STAR study found that students in small K-3 classes showed significantly higher reading and math achievement than students in larger classes. These gains persisted for years, including higher graduation rates and college attendance. In other words, reducing class size functions as an early intervention strategy. These budget decisions have real, lasting consequences on children's futures. By reducing supports and increasing class sizes, we are effectively resigning too many students to permanent academic struggle. I urge you to reconsider these cuts and prioritize investments that protect quality instruction. For the sake of our students, our teachers, and our community, please do what the research and common sense both demand. Keep class sizes manageable and classrooms focused on student success. Small class sizes in early elementary are not a staffing preference. They are a scientifically validated early intervention system. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Bill Reed. I'm a resident and a business owner and property owner down in the Portola area, and also a grandfather and a father of 2 children, 2 young little ones at CRC. And I've never done this before. I've never got up and spoke at a board meeting, but I felt compelled to speak today because of what I've been hearing about the teachers And I come at it from a community member, from a grandfather, looking into the eyes of these two little ones, and all the other little ones running around there. Our teachers don't need a target on their backs. I see what they're doing. I saw what they did with my kids. I've been able to now recollect how important teachers were to me as a child. And it feels like these teachers that are dedicating way more than what we see on a daily basis to these kids' lives have a target on their back. They need the opposite. We need to lift them up and recognize their dedication to these little ones and empower them even more. And we need to remember that our children are the future of this community. This is an extremely unique community, Plymouth County, Quincy, Chester, Portola. These are some pretty awesome people that live here, and we all live here for a reason, and most of us are from somewhere else. And that our responsibilities in the public schools go way beyond the core subjects that we teach them, that we are developing these kids to be positive parts of our society, in our community, and for their own success. Our family was sitting at a restaurant in town, and my back was at the back door for breakfast. All our family was gathered around, 3 generations of us. And another family walked in the door, and I saw my granddaughter across the table just shine and glimmer and look up and smile and watch this family walk in the door. And she did a little wave to the other family, and she got up and went over and gave a big hug. And she came back, and I said, "Who was that?" And she said, "That was one of our teachers in the school." And I said, "Was that your teacher?" She said, "No, but I just love her." This is what these teachers do. This is what these teachers do, and I see it in this little rural school. It's pretty amazing. I know it's easy to look at the largest line items in the budget. As a business owner, I get it. And cutting the people that make such a positive impact to our children and to our communities must not be a consideration. And furthermore, if the board still decides to pull the rug out from our teachers, this is failure to our community, our children, and our failure as a district. Let's not douse that glimmer in their eyes. Thanks.
Hello, if you don't know who I am, I'm Tanya Hutchins. I'm a retired teacher from Plymouth Unified, a community member, a mom that had 4 of my children go through Plymouth schools. And I substitute teach currently in 3 communities: Greenville Elementary, Quincy Elementary, Alder Street, Quincy High School, and Portola High. So to say that I'm concerned about the current state of affairs would be an understatement. I'm angry, I'm outraged, I'm sad, I'm despondent. I'm listening to these staff people and to the students, because they're friends of mine too, at these sites, and it's more than I can bear. My gut reaction is to say, don't do this to our students. And then I step back and I realize, okay, you're gonna have to make budget cuts, I get that. But I'm gonna ask you, let's do what's best for the students in our community. Question every decision with the underlying idea of whether it is best for students, not just what's convenient or easy on paper. And that's when I start to shake my head and I think, I don't think cutting teachers and paraprofessionals and library people and all these others that support our students is what is best. It doesn't seem best to me. These people are essential for the work with students. So I start to wonder, have you had boots on the ground? Have you gone to these classrooms? I don't know if I've ever seen very many of you in a classroom. I'm in classrooms all day long, and I'm wondering, are you seeing what our staff is doing and how they are helping these students emotionally, physically, and academically? And so I would ask you, look at that, get some boots on the ground. Maybe you need to get back to the very basics and see what's going on. And don't just look at papers and lists and decide arbitrarily, because that's just easier to look at a paper and not see the faces and not look into the eyes of our staff and not look into the eyes of our students and talk to them one-on-one. That's what I think needs to happen. We need our students to thrive in these lean times and not just survive. So maybe that's a little bit emotional, but just like my button says, I want to protect our classrooms. I want to protect our students. I want my community to be strong, and I believe the strength comes partly from our schools and our staff and our support people. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill DePros, Jennifer Edwards, and Helene Lemna.
Hello. First, I'd like to acknowledge that I recognize how difficult this has been for everyone involved in trying to determine which cuts have to be made. There's no easy or good answers, with the result being that both kids and the remaining staff members are greatly impacted by these decisions. I feel compelled to speak directly about the decision to eliminate the behavioral health specialist. Not only will not having Scott Cash here make it far more difficult for me to do my job effectively, but it will also have a huge negative impact on our students. Scott has easily provided therapeutic services to a third of our students at some point and regularly carries a 40-plus students on his caseload. At a time when students' mental health needs are rising and the availability to see a therapist outside of school is incredibly challenging due to wait lists, transportation barriers, and insurance costs, this service is invaluable. The research is clear. Students can't learn when they are dysregulated. Mental health services in schools improve student well-being by providing accessible, stigma-reducing care that enhance academic performance, attendance, and emotional resilience. But Scott does so much more. We will also be losing a safe space that students go to before school begins to get some encouragement or feed Violet, our emotional support bearded dragon, in order to start their day well. We will be losing our esports, GSA, art club, and D&D advisor. We will be losing our Lift Up Lounge coordinator, and not only that, Scott has made tremendous impacts in our community. He organizes CSOC and has accomplished something countywide that I don't think has been in place, at least effectively, for a long time. He has been able to bring agencies from across the county together, establish MOUs and ROIs that allow students and families to get the interventions and resources they need. He has also been in communication with PDH therapists about coming in and providing groups. He is part of the Neurosequential Modeling for Education grant with Wendy James and is trained in reframing behavior through CPI. This is the position we are going to eliminate. Not only could this position have paid for itself and generated additional income for years if billing had been set up properly, which brings up another concern I have, that not one person in a key position at the district office has a PPS credential or a mental health background. This is crazy to me, but I digress. A simple Google search reveals that California is investing hundreds of millions of dollars to boost school mental health through the Department of Healthcare Services grants and the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative. Who at the district office is looking into trying to secure some of these funds in order to save and expand these positions in our schools? Without our school nurse and without our behavioral health specialist, my job will become so difficult that I'm not sure that I can take on these additional duties. That needs to be fixed. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, County Administrator Duvarney. My name is Jennifer Edwards. I'm speaking to you tonight not only as a teacher at CRC, but as a parent and local resident who deeply loves Plumas County. The current proposal to cut over 50 positions is not just a budget decision. It is a decision that will permanently change the lives of educators, families, and most importantly, children. These are people who have bought homes here, raised families here, and dedicated years of their lives to serving this district. To erase their livelihoods is to tear at the fabric of this community, not to mention the impacts that will follow the local economy. But the damage does not stop with employees. It lands hardest on students. Larger class sizes means less individual attention. Cutting libraries, woodshop, and art classes strip students of creativity, literacy, and joy. Eliminating transportation shuts the door on access and equity. And I have to ask, what kind of education is that? What message are we sending to children when we say these things are expendable? As a parent, I say this with fear in my heart. I am not sure I want to send my own child to a district that makes choices like this. We are public education. Our purpose and first priority should always be to serve the kids, not spreadsheets, not short-term fixes, and not decisions that hollow out our schools. When we remove the very people who support, guide, and educate children, we are not saving money. We are doing a profound disservice to the next generation. I want to ask you directly, do you have children of your own? If you do, would you want them learning in overcrowded classrooms, without libraries, without art, without access to transportation? Would you want them in a district that chooses cuts over compassion? Our kids deserve better. Our educators deserve dignity. And this community deserves leadership that protects, not destroys, what makes schools places of hope and love. Please, do not cut these positions. There are other ways to reduce the school district's deficit, starting with reducing the administrative overhead. Show decency. Show compassion. Stand up for children and for the future of this community. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Duvarney, Ms. White, hello, board members. I am Helen Lemna, a retired teacher. I have had the privilege of teaching 25 plus years for PUSD. So I am also a community member. I am the proud mother of 2 QHS graduates who had the privilege of going through school when the old programs were still offered. I'm not sure I would want them in the school system currently, sadly. So I want to address specifically the fact that you're looking at laying off all the librarians except the one at the Portola High School. And I am just wondering, by doing so, how are you planning to stay in compliance with your LCAP requirements? I loved how Melissa Leal described it as the library services are part of your LCAP goals. So how will you stay compliant? And I also would imagine that you know the literacy crisis we're in currently, and how essential it is for students to have access to books, library, to not only just read and the practice of reading, but the love of reading, and also a window into the greater world besides Plymouth County, but also a world of literacy. So my other concern is in cutting so much staff members, both certificated and classified, the stress factor on the rest of your staff. I am very concerned that you are exposing yourself to losing very highly qualified staff that just cannot take this overload and cannot take the stress. And I am also concerned for the students that will have less services, particularly with mental health. And so I am concerned that you might see a great increase in behavior issues, in discipline problems, in mental health breakdown, and possibly even an increase in violence. So I'm just really concerned about what could come down with all those cuts. And the loss of, we have some, I mean, so much has already been said, I want to say more, but my appeal is for you to think outside the box as to what could be cut, and to preserve just the core of the education that we have provided so well through PUSD and for our county. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. We've gone over our 20-minute time limit, but we have 4 people left. I think it's important to hear from everyone. So the next 4 are, is that Tim Litter? I can't, sorry. Okay, doesn't feel better. Tim Litter, S.E. Hull, Bridget Tracy, Amy Lassiter, and Glacier Dutton.
Thank you. My name is Timothy. I have 3 kids currently enrolled at the schools, and my son keep coming, told me that even currently they don't have active teachers, math teachers, which is the main subject currently. And to hear that you guys are going to cut more, as it is already short, I cannot imagine. I have 27 years experience in accounting. I'm accounting by profession. Budgeting is something that we look 5 years ahead of time. So for you to have all these students and stuff, it's already in place. That is already ongoing process, and the short that caused them to cut again, I cannot understand. It's easier to just prevent than just cutting. When you cut, you bleed. My understanding, the definition of church is the members. The definition of the school is the students and the teachers, and whatever the educations that is into it. So when you cut those factors, the main factors, you lost the definition of your school. So my call is just, where is the mistake was made? Why don't just make the adjustment on the mistake to begin with and not cut the bleed?
Hi, I'm not sure how far this sounds like the right distance. My name is Bridget Tracy, and I am a parent of a 1st grader and a 3rd grader at Quincy Elementary School. And I'm here tonight just to voice my concern as a parent and a community member about the significant cuts that are being made to the district generally, but especially to teachers and to student-facing staff. So I'd like to say I certainly understand and respect that you are facing a significant challenge. Cutting millions of dollars from the budget is going to force you to make difficult decisions. And I would just like to encourage you as you do that to remember that the main job of the school is to serve students. That is the job that the school has, and our community is only as strong as our public schools are going to be. And that's true now, and that's true in the future. So a few specific concerns that I have that have already been voiced are about class sizes. So trying to maintain the best possible teacher-student ratios that we can, especially for younger grades. Many of the students in our younger grades are already not meeting their ELA and math metrics that we're looking for, and so trying to shove them into bigger class sizes is a significant concern that I have. The next concern is about combination classes. As I said, I have a 1st grader and a 3rd grader. I'm also a professional educator, and I honestly struggle to manage doing 1st grade and 3rd grade homework with only 2 kids at the same time. So how is a teacher who is dealing with 25 students and trying to serve 2 different grade level curriculums with a significant number of students that are not at grade level, maybe significantly behind grade level, supposed to possibly be able to succeed at that job? So as you're considering making these cuts, I really hope that you're doing this in a way that maintains the best possible student-teacher ratios and minimizes combination classes as much as possible. The last thing that I would say is I'm concerned that as we get bigger class sizes and more combination classes, that we're forcing students, especially young students, but all students, into situations where we're trying to replace teachers with educational technology and putting students more and more on screens. Screens and educational technology are not teachers. And I just worry that that is a crutch that we're depending on in all parts of this country, not just in Plumas County, but when we're making these kinds of cuts, that we're moving farther and farther in that direction. So I hope that you and the district and all the people that are involved in making decisions that affect our students are taking those considerations very seriously. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Amy Laster. I am a SPED paraeducator in this district. I'm also a parent of children who attend school here. I stand before you tonight just not as an employee, but as a mother, a voice for the ones who can't speak, as someone who works every single day with these students who will be the ones who are impacted by the decisions that you're proposing. It's heartbreaking to feel like no matter how many of us show up, no matter how many signatures we gather, no matter how many voices speak, the outcome is predetermined. My recommendation, and many others, is that this reduction in positions proposal be denied, but seeing how my understanding is you're the one who wrote this plan, you're not denying your own proposal. The deficit facing this district was not created by the students, it was not created by the support staff, it was not created by classroom teachers, and yet they're the ones being asked to carry the consequences. I understand that the high school electives are being reduced, not entirely eliminated, but even reductions have consequences. We cut back culinary, automotive, art, and library access. We narrow their opportunities. We limit their exploration. We reduce the spaces where students may feel seen, capable, and motivated to attend the school. For some students, electives are not just extra. They're the reason why they come to school.
Yes.
They're where the struggling student finds their confidence. They're where hands-on learners discover a career path. They're where creativity becomes their therapy, and they are where connections happen. Reducing electives and cutting staff members who support the students' academic and mental health needs sends a message, whether you're intending it or not, that these supports are secondary, but they are not secondary. We are already facing significant youth mental health crisis, and removing or reducing the very programs and in-person staff that help students regulate, connect, and succeed will not solve the problem. It risks deepening this issue. When students lose access to meaningful electives and trusted support staff, engagement drops, absences rises, the hope shrinks, and many more of our students, the future already feels uncertain enough. Eliminating the bus transportation for general education students also raises a serious concern. If students cannot get to school, they cannot benefit from any of the programs that we're trying to preserve. We cannot say that attendance matters while removing the access to attend. And the proposal to combine two elementary campuses while may look efficient on paper means doubling student population, crowding the staff, stretching already thin resources. Those who will feel the strain the most are the youngest learners. It feels backwards that the solution to financial mismanagement is to reduce the very support staff that stabilizes these students and the family. The state may balance a spreadsheet and call it fixed, but while the lights go out in the classroom and programs are reduced, when children lose their opportunity, it may not be the state who feels the loss, and they won't even see it firsthand. It'll be us, the students, the family, it'll be the educators who wipe the tears or worse, and try to hold what remains together. A budget can be repaired on paper, however, the damage to a child's opportunity and mental health is not so easily undone. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Clisha Dutton, and I'm a librarian at Portola High School and a lifelong advocate for libraries and the importance of them. PUSD has repeatedly said that there'd be a goal of keeping cuts away from students. And so I advocate strongly to you tonight that we keep the classified and certificated employees where they need to be and with the students. When looking for millions of dollars in cuts, efficiency also is completely necessary. We need to be making
mindful, efficient cuts. So I'm going to use librarians as an example, not because I think they're the most important thing for us to preserve on their own, but because it's an example that I can speak to personally and know. In the past few years, the maximum that the district has directly funded per site in libraries is 10 hours per week. If you multiply that by the number of sites and using a pay scale based on top seniority, then cutting librarians from what the district has directly funded in the past few years saves you $42,000 a year for all of us. Now, most librarians work several other jobs and have hours that are funded by their high school sites or elementary principals as well. So I'm speaking about the district contributions in the past few years. I'm pretty sure we spend more money on things like toilet paper than we're spending on our librarians. I believe that we should protect our resources. Heck, with the amount of money that recently has been in the textbook budget column on our budgets, you'd think that protecting these assets would be a top priority. And that's one of the things librarians do. We hold students accountable for the textbooks they check out and turn back in. Without us, you're losing the accountability of those materials. Plus, we curate and manage engaging inventory that builds lifelong readers and students that become adults who can use critical thinking skills to tell fiction from nonfiction, from when something is a fact or when it's just a really good story. So, while the story might read that it looks like you've done due diligence in trimming back 5 librarians from your budget, the fact is you really aren't saving any money. Don't let $42,000 a year fool you. Librarians are cheap. And the efficiency you lose in removing these from when they're part of your LCAP goals, and when you're directly affecting the students, which is another goal you said you've tried not to do, you're reducing, the efficiency and the accountability with district resources. I'd like to thank you for your time and remind you that librarians are here to teach fact from fiction, and we need to make sure we're looking at the facts and the story that just looks good. Thank you.
Thank you for the public comment. It will be considered, as it has in the past, and we appreciate the relationship that we have with you and the communication that we have with you. We will continue that, and I just appreciate all that are here and those that spoke, so thank you very much. Going to our next agenda item is our audit report. And this will be by Heather Rubio, and I will give the mic to Stephanie to introduce Heather.
Heather Rubio is our part of Christy White, which is our auditing firm. She'll be presenting the 24-25 audit. One of the concerns that have been across our district is our late audits. And so one exciting news is that this is the last time that we'll ever probably need an extension. We're back on a regular cycle, which allows us to actually tackle and improve corrective action throughout each one of our findings. So keeping in mind that this is for the 24-25 school year, which did, majority of it happened before most of us were here. So thank you, Heather.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Heather Rubio. I'm the lead auditor on the school district's audit for this fiscal year. This is an audit of the unaudited actuals that were approved and presented, I think, in October of 2025. So this is a review of those numbers. As Stephanie had mentioned, the work in this audit that encompasses fiscal year was already done while we were still doing the 23-24 audit. So a lot of the findings that were in the 23-24 audit will also show up in this particular audit. So you can, sorry about that. So you can see that, I'll take you to page 1, which discusses our audit opinion. And so in here, on page 1, we continue to have a qualified opinion on the general fund and the governmental activities. And these are for the same 3 reasons that we had that issue last year. They relate specifically to the accounts payable and accounts receivable roles. There needs to be a lot of work in cleaning up those. So those accounts payable and receivables are being rolled forward from the previous year and need to be cleared through. The second is cash in this case. Actually, cash was an issue last year. I think it actually was clarified this year, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And the third is inventory. So there's still an issue with the accounting for the inventory. But the other funds, your county school facilities fund, your other major fund, and bond interest redemption fund, and your aggregate remaining fund information received unmodified opinion. So we do agree with the numbers presented there, and we were able to substantiate those balances. In addition, there is an issue with your ability to continue as a going concern, as evidenced by the state loan that was entered into after these financial statements date, which is June 30, 2025. Okay. I also want to take you to page towards the end of the audit report, which goes into, sorry, towards the end. And it goes, it's a summary of our audit, and that page on your page should be, here it is, page 85. Okay. So on page 85, overall, we've issued a qualified audit report. So that means there were numbers in this audit report, specifically AR, AP, and inventory, that we did not feel comfortable because there needs to be a little work done in those accounts to clean up. And I know the district is working on it. It just wasn't cleaned up as of the date these were closed. So there is a material weakness in that process. So there really needs to be a process over that AP and AR accruals and inventory. But otherwise, no significant deficiencies were noted or no instances of non-compliance material to the financial statements. The second piece of the audit is related to federal awards. And this is the reason the audit was actually delayed by 1 month, was because there wasn't an audit guide out and there was a federal shutdown. We selected 2 programs, Title I, Part A, and your Child Nutrition Cluster this year. So the Office of Management and Budget, when they put out their audit guide, outlined exactly what we needed to look at here. So we went through the expenditures and their reporting and the time certifications. So those are the people who worked on these programs, actual people who worked on these programs. Are you able to support that? Did you notify your private schools in the area? So there's a number of procedures related to this. The good news is there were no findings, material weaknesses, or significant deficiencies in these areas. And so you still do not qualify as a low-risk auditee because of your qualified opinion. So we do continuously have to select 40% of your federal programs to audit as a result of that. And then finally, your state awards. Another area the district has had findings in the past. There are a number of audit procedures outlined in the state audit guide that detail exactly what we need to look for. Ultimately, there were no material weakness or significant deficiencies, but there were findings that we had to report to the state, and I will go into those. But we were able to issue an unmodified opinion. So if you move on to page 86, and I was going to just go through a high-level overview of the findings. So the first finding is related to accounts receivable and accounts payable, and this is so basically your financial statements need to be accrued. You need to accrue any payments that you need to be made by June 30th, and any money you should be receiving by June 30th. We aren't able to fully determine that number because there's amounts that have been rolling forward from previous years that need to be cleared out. It looked like the activity in the current year was correct. It's the stuff that's been rolling forward from previous years that needed to be cleaned out. This is a repeat finding from the previous year, and this led to that qualified opinion. The second one is related to inventory. Similar thing here, there is a balance in inventory. Can't really substantiate that count. It's hard to identify exactly what belongs to that. And so there needs to be some work in cleaning up that inventory account. So that's on your balance sheet as an asset. And then finally, the third one is just the journal entries, and that really goes back to those accounts payable and accounts receivables. There really needs to be a formal process, a formal review, and it looks like that had been started towards the end of the audit. Unfortunately, it just wasn't there for the full audit of when we did, so we have to put this in there. And like I mentioned, no federal findings. And then as far as the state findings, this relates to instructional materials, which was by the time the district was aware of it last year, that again, we were already well into the year. So this is just not having a 10-day notice of the public hearing. So it wasn't posted 10 days prior, and that's a requirement for instructional materials. Repeat finding, classroom teacher salaries. This is where you're required to meet a minimum, and this was a similar finding from last year. The district did not meet the minimum, which is the 50, you have to rate 55%. They were at 51%. And then your after-school education and safety program. This was not a finding last year, but it is a new finding this year, and it looks like there are some variances in the reporting. And then the sign-out sheets we were looking for, we did not find. And so that was a new issue for this year. But on another note, there were a few findings from last year that were cleared up, and those relate to a different issue with after-school education and safety. So you'd resolved one issue there, but then there became another issue. So there was a different issue there. And the other one, your ratio of administrative employees to teachers, you were able to resolve that finding. Oh, and then you had a finding related to change orders in the previous year. The district was able to address that finding, so they were able to clear that. To summarize, there were 10 findings in the previous year, and this year there are 6. And that is really the summary of the report. I'm happy to go into any questions or talk about any of our procedures. Do you have any questions, anybody?
Thank you, Heather. I did read the audit. It wasn't that exciting, but I am excited to realize that we are back on track and that our audits are on time and will be on time in the future. So thank you very much.
Yes, that is correct.
This is an action item. Is there any public comment on the audit? So this is an action item, and as the county administrator approved the audit for the 2024-2025 year.
Rachel, you accept the audit.
Or accept the audit, okay. Yes. And our next item is the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistant Team, or FICMAT presentation, and this presentation will be done by Mike Pine, Tammy Montero, and Megan Riley, and I believe we're starting with Mike, and Mike is on Zoom there.
Great. Good evening, Mr. DeVarney and Mrs. White and members of the Plymouth team. I'm Mike Fine. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the state's Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team. I apologize for not being there in person. I have splitting my evening between 2 school board meetings, and you are my priority, but it was impossible to be there in person and assist the other district as well. Tonight, we've been there several times on the course of this journey, including last April when we reported our initial findings of the district's fiscal distress that ultimately escalated very quickly to the district asking the state for assistance. The form of that assistance was to ask the state for an emergency advanced apportionment. We often refer to that emergency advanced apportionment as a loan, but the reality is the state has advanced to Plumas the funds that it would otherwise owe to Plumas over the course of the next 30 years. And those were advanced and available a total of $20 million by action of the legislature and signed by the governor on June 27th. So the district actually entered receivership, state receivership on June 27th with that action. In August, as you know, our original analysis was that you would run out of cash in August, not be able to meet payroll, which, as we've talked before, is the actual definition of insolvency. You drew down 8.5 million of that approved authorized 20 million. I think the good news is that we believe that's where things may stop. You have also taken very aggressive steps to stabilize the district. In many respects, kind of done everything right. And I really compliment the team, initial team under Ms. White's leadership and Stephanie, the hiring of Stephanie and Stephanie's good work for you as the interim CBO. And Mr. DeVarney, as you have come in October and continued that work. There's a lot of work still to be done, but we may be able to hold this emergency apportionment to the original 8.5 and not have to go higher than that. And that's excellent news. And again, I'll say it again, that's reflective of the good work, very difficult decisions that you've had to make up to this point. I want to distinguish what brings us to the district tonight from other agenda items. You just heard from Heather at Christy White on your audit and very positive direction that that's taken. Tonight, we are going to report on the statutorily required comprehensive review that we're required to do annually for a period of time of the district. This is our first one. As you noted earlier in the meeting, we provided this on December 31st within the 6-month statutory time period. And tonight we are the team from FCMAT, my colleague Megan Riley, my colleagues Megan Riley and Tammy Montero. Tammy has led this effort in Plumas really since day one. It's been our face and your main point of contact and done the majority of work with you. Are going to present a summary of that almost 300-page report. I want to distinguish the nature of this. This comprehensive review focuses on policy, focuses on process. It focuses on standards that the State Board of Education have set for all school districts with regard to well-operated school districts. It looks at 5 functional areas, and Tammy and Megan will walk you through those. And the reason it doesn't just look at finance, but looks at 5 is that when you get to the point that you need the state's assistance and emergency advanced apportionment, history tells us that the district is, for lack of a better word, not just dysfunctional with regard to its financial management, but it's dysfunctional in all functional areas. Student instruction and student achievement, governance, which is very clearly the case here, leading up to the state's intervention in June, personnel management, facilities management, and I think I just hit all 5 of those. And then, of course, fiscal management, financial management. So Tammy and Megan are going to walk you through that. I want to distinguish the comprehensive review from the very difficult decisions that you have to make in the next agenda items and from what the public's comments were tonight. Again, this focuses on policy, process, meeting standards and not meeting standards with regard to your functional areas. At the same time, what it doesn't do is it doesn't address your budget deficiency, which very candidly was left to you by previous leadership. I understand the community's outrage. I wish they were expressing that same outrage over a year ago to the elected and appointed school board that was in place at that time and to the previous district superintendent, because they are the causes of this. And what you are left with, the team that's there now, is to clean this up. And so you were spending about 8.5 million more per year than what you were bringing in when we did the analysis last spring. That gap has to be closed. In addition, you have to make room in your budget to now begin to pay the state back for the emergency advanced apportionment, because that needs to be paid back annually over up to 30 years, which is a very long time and a lot of interest. And so I want to distinguish those activities. You must move forward on a fiscal stabilization plan. While we aren't directly involved in the decisions that you've made of what you put on that plan, the bottom line is, as you well know, you must move forward and close your budget gap. Unfortunately, that's a gap that should have been closed a year ago, should have been closed the previous year before that, but your elected board and leadership opted not to do that, which put the district and its students and families in jeopardy. And so I just want to remind us all of kind of where we're at in this process. I'm going to turn it over to Megan and Tammy to walk you through a summary of the comprehensive review and the samples they've chosen to highlight for you. I also want to thank the rest of the team that's there from the California Department of Ed and their support of the district as for the community's benefit. We all together meet monthly. Some of us meet more than monthly, but all together we meet monthly and review status each step of the way. It's been a very collaborative process. And again, kind of kudos to Ms. White and Mr. DeVarney for the work they've done to date. These are difficult decisions that you have to make ahead tonight. And I absolutely understand that. There's no question in my mind about the difficulty of that. But with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Megan and Tammy, and I am going to step away to join another board meeting. And then if I need to return for any reason later tonight, I can do that, and we'll be on standby for that.
Thank you very much. Superintendent, thank you, Mike, and Superintendent White, Administrator DeVarney. My name is Megan Riley. I am the Chief Administrative Officer at FCMAT, Fiscal Crisis Management Assistant Team. I want to give some perspective on what FCMAT is and where we were created. Back in the 1990s, we were created when similarly a district went insolvent and the state had to step in. And so the creation of the legislature in 1991 created FCMAT, which is really made up of a small group, a team of about 24 people that provides management assistance throughout the state of California for fiscal crisis and intervention, and provides other supports to school districts across the state. It is truly an elite group of financial experts. It is an external and independent agency of the state that comes in when there is distress in a district. Our roles and responsibilities are clearly dictated by the legislator and the state structure. Last year, as Mike explained, Assembly Bill 121 was signed by the governor specifically for the situation here in Plumas and this very special organization here in Quincy and the school district's needs for cash. The primary role is to implement the comprehensive review. Assembly Bill outlined what we were supposed to do in support of that. We were supposed to go in and do an assessment on the district's progress in meeting legal professional standards. These standards are very specific to California. They're not created by FCMAT themselves. They're standards created with educational agencies and the State Board of Education. We conducted an initial assessment. Superintendent White talked about our visit several months ago, that an annual evaluation to gauge progress towards recovery. Perform other duties to assist the district in recovery. We don't guide or direct or decide what the stabilization plan would be, but we guide and basically provide assistance to the district in helping it through those standards and as requested by the county superintendent. FICMAT really has no authority to return the powers to the district. The power resides in the community and in the decisions that are made to pay back the loan and meet certain criteria that is now going to be set before you. This comprehensive review report, which was conducted after numerous interviews through the community, through staff and teachers and students alike, is the written assessment of the district's project it's implementing. This will not be the first time FICMAT coming to you reporting on how the progress is going and how it's proceeding. When Mike talks about the fact that he feels that this is going to be a 3-year process, and so far $8 million out of the $20 million cash loan might actually be the only one, he's actually giving an indicator that he has great hopes that this district will actually be able to solve those problems that were left to be resolved. There's a lot of indicators that really show that there's a collaborative effort to resolve not just the cash problem that was the loan, but also the budgetary problem which came with that, which is part of what the fiscal stabilization plan does. What we come in and do as FICMAT is we show the progress that the district is making, not just towards financial, but towards 5 criteria that we'll talk about. And again, I want to re-emphasize, this is not criteria that was set in a vacuum. The State Board of Education and other agencies spent decades creating these criteria. It's a legal standard that measures compliance with the statute that we're measuring. It is professional standards through audit guidance and other things that we use to find out what is the best practice and to prevent this from ever happening again. So we evaluate and document the implementation of these best practices, and we are by your side throughout this process to tell you how you're doing. These standards are applied to all school districts across the state, and they cover 5 operational areas. They change over time, but once you have come into this process, those standards that you start with will not change, and we will follow them along. So those 5 standards are community relations and governance. Some of these problems do not just happen in a vacuum. They don't happen overnight, like one of the speakers mentioned. There may be other things that attribute to it. So we look at community relations and the governance structure. Personnel management. As we know, schools are a body and an organization that are made up of its people, so we look very deeply into the personnel management. Pupil achievement. A fiscal crisis impacts student and pupil achievement. We know that's a direct correlation, so we look at what's happening with pupil achievement and how that is happening through this process, and we watch over that. And facilities management, and finally, financial management. It doesn't stand alone, it stands combined with all of these things that leadership has to manage and a community has to work on to set the priorities of all 5 of these throughout the process of recovery. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy Montero, who is the lead in this process and will be your guide through this.
Thank you, Megan. Good evening. So, as Megan described and Mike kind of did the lead-in, this is a deficit analysis. This isn't going to point out all the things that the district is doing right. And I also want to point out the time frame of which we used as a measurement. It's not a reflection of the people that you have here today. This report was based on a time frame of approximately the time that the first phone call I received, which was in December of 2024. It was the fall of 2024 where things between October and December 24. So as we came in with our teams, we went back and we looked at that time frame. We didn't look at it from when we were here. So we were here in August and September of 2025. And so it's really important to note that many things had improved by the time we were here. while we wanted to give the district credit for that, it wasn't appropriate. This initial analysis is based on what was happening at the time that the insolvency occurred. I'll talk a little bit more later about what's going to happen when we come in for the next review and the time frame that we'll be looking at for that. So as Megan mentioned, these standards set by the state board, there are 122 of them. In our 271-page report, there are 549 total recommendations. And on this slide where it says some of them are repeats, it just means that at the very beginning, maybe the first question in each of those 5 areas that Megan outlined, maybe the first one is about administrative practices or something like that. So it's administrative practices for the various 5 different areas. So some of the things overlap. Okay, so the standards are broken out on this slide in the 5 different areas. When it says number of standards, those are the number of standards set by the State Board of Education. Again, FIGMAT's not responsible for that. We are given those standards and we measure them. The standards, as you see the key at the bottom, are scored on a scale of 0 to 4. So a 0 means not implemented and a 4 would mean sustained. Because this is the first year, we're not allowed to use a 4 for anything because you have to get to a 3 and you have to hold it for a year when we come back again to get to a 4. And when we'll talk later about what happens when we can make a recommendation to return local control, these scores, there's a slide that explains where these numbers need to be. So looking at what we see here, the lowest area of as measured against the standards is in the personnel management, or that would be your human resources area, and the highest would be in pupil achievement. So now in each of the 5 areas, I have some slides with just some key points. I know you all can read. This is already in your board agenda. I have no intention of reading every single one of these bullets to you. Maybe I'll just pull a couple of the key points off of each of these slides. So in the community relations and governance, this is the section where we met with board members of the community, actually staff. We asked folks like, how do you feel you are included in decisions that are made and your voice is being heard? And so we've got some things here that we thought could be improved as a basis of the comprehensive, promote more community involvement. One of the things that we heard from your board when we interviewed them was that training was needed, but also recruiting people to come and be on your Board of Education. We've got a couple of folks right now that have been on the board for a while and they would love to recruit more people, but it seems that there isn't as much interest in that as you would hope. So that was one of the areas that we have a recommendation for. Form 700 is a statement of economic interest. It's something that should be filed by the board members and usually key staff and in the management, and where we found that some of those were not adequately collected. And then the last bullet here, you have seen a change in this one already. The board meetings are now broken out. So we came here tonight, you were having your county office meeting, and then by 5 p.m. we started the district meeting. So you can see some of these things are already being put into play. Personnel management, as I mentioned, was the area that needed the most recovery. This is really hard when you're trying to manage people, and we are a people-based organization, all of California schools. There are a lot of missing processes and procedures in there. Proper credential verification processes, personnel files were not containing all the appropriate documents. We need to update policies on leaves, seniority evaluations and job descriptions, and just a total lack of training, basically. And I recognize that. You are in a very rural location. It's hard for your staff to get out of here to go get training, and it's hard to bring anybody in to provide that training for you. The return to work program needed some updates, and evaluation processes weren't well documented as well. We also made a recommendation to separate the district and the county office salary schedules. In pupil achievement, again, as I mentioned, that this was a high scoring area, and I will also share that the collaborative for educational excellence is also working with the district to try to address some of these areas as well. I don't know if you know this, but they are, as a part of the insolvency, they play a role in stepping in to assist with this recovery. We can help with the finance and the HR and the facilities, but really they are the experts to come in and help guide the district for any of these pupil achievement issues. So tracking the LCAP expenditures is on this list, as well as more training for your school district administrators about continuous improvement for your schools. The English language development instruction was another area of improvement. Even though the number in your population is low, there was still not. I traveled through all the sites and went through all of your classrooms in your schools, and I know that there were some concerns about how were we having everything in the appropriate languages for the English language development instruction, and also different types of publications that were available to the community. And let's see, cross-training for student information. So student information data specialists, this would be the people that are reporting for probably your CalPads. This would be folks that are, so CalPads informs your unduplicated count, which informs your LCAP, which informs your goals. And so we just want to make sure that that data is coming into CalPads is as clean as it can be. And it's really hard in these small locations to have more than one person that knows how to do that, but we're encouraging that. In financial management, the position control system, I think, is a big concern. I know that they've been working on that. So position control are the spaces that we have where we know that we need to match them with a person, and that is how we know how many people we have. So we start with how many do we need, and then we match them together. And when we got here, looking back to the fall of 2024, it was basically non-existent. I personally was the one that did that multi-year projection when we came and talked to you in April, as Mike mentioned, and the budgets were grossly overspent across the board. There were no budget monitoring processes in place at all. We know that the audits weren't timely. The auditor mentioned that earlier tonight. Your food services program needs some assistance on the accuracy of inventory, and I think the auditor also mentioned that this evening. And I see we have the CalPads recommendation in here twice to make sure it's handled by more than one person. Moving on to facilities, we need to have a facilities master plan. I know you have harsh conditions here, the weather and the snow and everything else. And so make sure we have that master plan and a plan for your preventative maintenance. Consider resuming the developer fee program so the district can be eligible for state facilities funds. That's important. I think Mr. Frost was working on that as well. I think we only have one slide on facilities. Okay. So where do we go from here? So this is your roadmap to recovery. In the statutes about insolvency, it says that the district needs to have this plan, and this plan consists of this report. Everyone will be, so we have this list here, the county superintendent, the superintendent of public instruction, and the State Board of Education use this report to monitor what's happening here. And as Mike mentioned, we will be back annually. And you can see in this third bullet, it says, progress is determined when an operational area has an average of 3 with no scoring less than a 2. That average of 3 is the signal for returning local control, which means that your board can resume their authority. So this is why we know it would, well, if you had all 4s or all 3s this year, you could have a 4 and you could be done in the second year. But it's, as you saw from the numbers, we have a ways to go to get to be able to have an average of 3 across the board. So looking forward, We've already scheduled, as Superintendent White mentioned, we're coming in May to do this again for round 2. And we will be using a period of May 2026 for that. So we won't be doing this kind of arbitrary, what happened back when the insolvency occurred. Now we just want to capture all the progress that has happened from the first phone call to May 2026. This report takes a lot of time and effort on our team. It takes about 5 months for us to get through all the documents that we have to review and gather and write the report, get it through all the proper processes. So it will probably be out in the fall of 2026. And this time around, the district will have an opportunity to review and provide comments. On the initial that we're presenting tonight, this was just an initial blush of what happened, what we think happened, and the measurement against the standards. But in the next go-round, as you're getting able to see what progress occurred, the district will get to review and provide comments back to us about that. And so last week, it will be posted on our website. I think we still have a Plumas insolvency portion on our website, so it would be posted there. And I'm sure that the district would be posting it on their website as well. So. Any questions?
We are setting aside 15 minutes for questions.
Does Mike need to wrap things up, or is he?
He's not here.
He's not here, okay.
I can't see the TV.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Megan.
Thank you, Tammy, Megan, and Mike. We appreciate your partnership and your assistance. The report is quite extensive, and we're working on it, but it takes each department to focus on what they're responsible for, and it's quite a process to get through. But thank you for that help. We really appreciate you in this difficult process. Our next item is item number 13, and it's student achievement. And if you recall, in our PCOE board meeting, Melissa Leo went over the LCAP, and she did the presentation there, so we didn't want to repeat that presentation again. So does anyone have any comments or thoughts on the LCAP? All right, well, thank you. And then our fiscal item is item number 14. And this item, there was an attachment to the fiscal stabilization plan, and I think there's a small revision on that. So when we approve it, we'll approve the revised version that's there as well. So with that, I will introduce Stephanie Chateau for her presentation.
Thank you. Just gonna wait for my presentation to get on there. Excellent. You guys look really close that. Okay, so today, the fiscal stabilization, we presented it a few times during board meetings. We've also held it at community meetings and other things like that. This presentation is the final version that will be adopted and used as a roadmap into our second interim reporting and moving forward in decisions being made today, decisions being made in the board meeting as well. Oops. For those of you who have listened to me make presentations before, I think understanding the definitions of the words that are used when we talk about fiscal is really important. And so I'd really like to redefine what budget means in this instance. So for budgeting, it is planned revenue and expenditures based on assumptions for that year. Budgets are a live document. We update them at different snapshots throughout our processing, but it is the planned projection of what we think we'll be receiving and what we believe we'll be spending. Okay, and so this is a very live process when it comes to budgeting. Deficit is the language when we are spending more than we are receiving, okay? Which is not always a negative thing. Often we can receive a restricted fund that is a one-time amount that we are supposed to spend over multiple years. So what that does look like is deficit spending because we are spending down a one-time amount. The issue that has arisen here at Plumas is a structural deficit problem. And what a structural deficit truly means is that we're not talking about we have a large lump sum that we're spending down over time. We are saying that we have operational costs that have consistently been overspent year over year over year. So we are living outside of our revenue means. Okay, so when you hear me talk about that structural deficit, that would be the difference between the restricted side, where we often get those one-time funds and draw them down, but we're really specifically here focusing on the unrestricted side of our budget, which is funded through majoritively our property taxes. Another clear distinction that I think is important here is that we have a difference between a fund balance issue and a cash flow issue. And so fund balance is when we talk about budgets. We are saying that we are projected in our planned revenues expenditures, right, what the difference of those are for this year. Cash, on the other hand, is when we're talking about the actual receipts of revenue and paid warrants. So because of our situation with our insolvency this year, insolvency was the determination that we did not have enough cash on hand to pay our bills or payroll. These two things don't have to exist at the same time. We could be cash low, but fine in our fund balance, or we could have a negative fund balance, but be fine on cash. The issue with Plumas Unified School District is that it actually is an issue with both. We have a structural deficit that implied a negative ending fund balance, which also year over year has caused an issue with our cash flow, which resulted in a negative cash projection as well. So these are the two major focuses that we are using in our fiscal recovery plan, not only understanding how to get us back out of that structural deficit, but also to ensure that we can continually pay our bills without needing to take an advance apportionment, which forces us to have additional costs down the line, which injures our districts throughout the future. Our goal today in this fiscal recovery plan is to ensure that the future of your district has a future, and that the decisions made today are hard, but that then we don't have to come here again and again and again and continue to hurt the future of our district. So why are we here? In 24-25, we had an adopted budget that had a deficit of only $123,000 and had an ending fund balance of approximately $900,000. But then, in 24-25 first interim reporting, we had a deficit of $4.4 million. That's negative $4.4 million, and an ending fund balance of negative $5.7 million. This was the first red flag that got brought forward in our process. So then in second interim, we had a deficit reporting of $3.1 million and an ending fund balance of $4.5 million. As a reminder, when we go through budget processes, this is live. So this gets updated with personnel and operating costs and things that we project, and then we just update each reporting period, so you'll always see a fluctuation between each one of these. That was when FICMAT was hired or brought in to evaluate the situation, and I was hired to present at the very first third interim, where we took the projections of a position control established by FICMAT and also reevaluated our fiscal standing for our third interim report, which is required when you have a negative qualification. And so what we were able to do here was finally include position control verification. And oddly enough, the next report that actually comes forward is our 25-26 adopted budget. This also includes our estimated actuals of how we think 24-25 are going to exist. So when we did our adopted budget, we had a negative deficit of $7.6 million. And that included an ending fund balance of $6.4 million. So then we were able to make another projection of our 24-25 unaudited actuals. It gets really confusing in our financial statements because we go back positive. We go back positive because we took a one-time $4.77 million one-time drawdown from our reserve on Fund 17. That was a one-time thing that we got to do because we had reserves available to do that. So that brings us back up into the positive, right? But our structural deficit is still existing. We just had a one-time influx of $4 million, which then resulted in our assumption of our cash flow issues, right? So we have a cash flow of not being able to meet our payroll obligations projected in August payroll. So we needed to make our official drawdown from the state of our $8.5 million. We still had a structural deficit at that point of $5.1 million, but it becomes clouded because we had this one-time influx of cash. So we do end in a positive ending fund balance because of that one-time $8.5 million and starting with a positive balance from the $4.7 million. We will not get an opportunity to have these drawdowns again. That Fund 17 is gone. We don't have that anymore, and we're not replenishing it. And every time we draw down from our loan, it's an additional cost to the districts that will last us for a long period of time, which I will explain that cost to the district in a few slides moving forward. So then the next report that I'm showing at first interim, we are back to, even with these two large influxes, by 26-27, we are back to a deficit spending of $6.1 million and a negative ending fund balance of $1.6 million. And then it compounds, right? If we don't fix it, then by 27-28, we have a deficit of $5.6 million and an ending fund balance of negative $7.3 million, which is the exact same size of the loan that we had to do to be able to pay our bills this year. Okay, the second part of our issue is that because of our ending negative fund balances, we're not able to meet our statutory deadline of having a 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. This allows us to be able to pay payroll if something happens. We're seeing deferrals pop up again, which means that we're not getting our funds as promised in a regular schedule, right? And so if we don't have cash sitting in this economic reserve, then we're not able to meet our obligations in those hardship times, which we all know are a potential that could hit us across the state. So there's two goals that we have here, which is to meet our cash flow, meet our 3% reserve, and to resolve our structural deficit. I'm not going to go too long into this because I do think that Matt touched on it a little bit, but a lot of the questions we get is, why are we here? There's a full report on why we are here that PICNOT presented. So if you haven't read that already, it's very comprehensive. And so it has the conditions leading up to insolvency, but some of the things that we really brought to highlight are our timeliness and accuracy of our audits and our financial reporting. We're finally back on a regular schedule. So when we are done with our unaudited actuals, it only will take a few months for the auditors to review that and see where we are, right? We have budget and cash management. As Tammy mentioned, there isn't a lot of management that happened before. When I got the books, almost every single one of your resources was overspent. There was not a budget in multiple resources. It took a long time to even understand what the plan was. Who was allocated? Why were they allocated that? Now that is monitored on a daily basis. I can tell you where our lines are in every single one of our budgets. And our cash management, which is challenging with our county treasurer, but we are working on a relationship where we are constantly keeping an eye on how much cash we have sitting in the bank to be able to pay those bills. And if there's a red flag, we know months in advance, not it's happening tomorrow, what are we gonna do, right? And the way we help monitor that is that you were able to make transfers from other funds, past limits that were supposed to happen, whenever they wanted, without any oversight. We withdrew that resolution from the board, and we said, no, every time a transfer needs to be happened, I have to come here, present it to the board, and make it very, very public that transaction happened, and within 120 days, it needs to be paid back. So we're implementing those budget and cash managements. Position control was a huge one. As you all know, you probably hear me talk about position control a lot. We're doing a lot of cleanup with that and how we can make sure it's accurate, because that is 80% of our budget is people. Additional points were put out about our oversight role, which normally would be our county office of education, but as a single, it becomes incredibly complicated. And so we put in extra steps to make sure that oversight occurred. I meet often with CDE. We have an oversight person who helps me review my reports that we put into place, asks those critical questions that should have been happening if we had a county office that wasn't the same person, right? That's a really complicated layer that comes in here as a single. An additional thing, we did have significant raises without proving that we could fund them. And if we would have done a disclosure agreement, we would have seen that, no, we couldn't have afforded the decisions that were made in the last few years. Okay, so one of the biggest things I'd like to point out here is why this is so important, is because we weighed cash and solid. We did not have money to pay our bills, and we had no other choice because we did not do significant layoffs in 24-25 and did not make the reductions we needed. So we had to have a cash drawdown from an advance apportionment from the state. This advance apportionment is insanely expensive. This is not a cheap thing to do. Going bankrupt is really expensive. And so I really wanted to just show those numbers to you on why it is so important that the only drawdown that we have to do is that $8.5 million, because we have a 30-year loan, not a loan, an advance apportionment. We are a basic aid school. We only get $1.3 million from the state annually. They have to take from that to pay it. So we pay $600,000 annually for 30 years. That is costing us $11 million in interest. $11 million in interest. If we continue to pull down, let's say we pull down the whole $20 million, we would have to pay back $25.9 million in interest. This is what I'm talking about the impacts. If we don't make changes now, will impact your children's children and your children's children for future years, and it will continue to compound. So by taking steps we're taking today, we may actually be able to only take the $8.5 million, restructure our deficit so that we can not only keep our obligations alive, but also potentially pay this back earlier so that we don't have to pay $11 million in interest. The sooner we pay it back, the less sooner that we have to stop paying interest. So our structural goal that was presented after the adoption of the budget and recertified at first interim was that we needed about $9.5 million in reduction to be able to keep a 3% reserve and fix our structural deficit spending problem so that we're not here next year and the year next. So what we are required to do, because we have a negative certification, is that we are required to adopt a fiscal stabilization plan that shows very specific reductions that are necessary to restore long-term fiscal health. And the reason why this is board approved is because it really will keep that accountability point. We're saying this is the steps we're going to take, and we will be checked in often to make sure that those changes are actually happening. And because interim reporting is based off of what actually is board approved, by approving this, I can take these savings and put them into our multi-year projection for second interim to see how close are we to actually solving our structural deficit problem and meeting our 3% reserves. Okay, so the fiscal recovery plan was conducted by having lots of input from our educational partners. We had 2 community meetings held at each community. We sent out student surveys, we sent out parent and staff surveys, and we held regular site administrator guidance meetings. So nothing was made in a vacuum. We worked really hard to communicate as hard as we could on what our plans were. We put out draft samples to see where we were going and really see what the community could help us determine what was important. From there, we found that the core concepts into our fiscal recovery plan were to protect the core student opportunities, begin reductions outside the classroom, review administrative district structures, strengthen community and transparency, and ensure that reductions were strategic, equitable, and student-centered. It's really important for us to note that when we saw the issue that we were in last year, we were able at a district office level to make some reductions without having to take official layoff notices or anything like this. These were actions that were voluntary and that your district office chose to do last year to make sure that we were equitably sharing what was happening across the district. So we eliminated a director of HR position. We took a HR specialist and HR supervisor and consolidated both of those positions. We voluntarily had a step down from assistant superintendent to a director to have savings from those 2 positions. We took higher level business office positions called the SASA and moved it to a program accountant. We eliminated an administrative assistant for CTE. We reclassified another SASA to just a payroll specialist. These impacted and were savings that were included when we finished 24-25. So another action that happened at first interim was we noticed that alignment with position control, right? We had these inactive vacancies that were sitting in our position control because it wasn't managed appropriately. And so by realigning with actual people in those positions, we were able to find 34.4 FTE, which was approximately $1.8 million in our budget that we got to see represented in our first interim reporting. And that does draw down from that $9.5 million. So what do we have outside of that we're planning on doing moving forward? One of the things we were working on is student-teacher ratio realignment. I have talked about the chart, right? So over the last 10 years, we've had about 18.65% decline in enrollment, but we've had 8.29 increase in teacher FTE. One of the driving things from our budget is always to align our enrollment with our FTE of teachers. COVID money made this a little bit more challenging and some other things, but our goal is to realign this with, as enrollment changes, so should our staffing. As a result of that, we had a resolution on this board meeting for PUSD for 14.85 FTE of certificate positions and reduction in force, resulting in $875,000. We also have vacancies. Vacancies do not need to be a part of the RIF process, they just need to be eliminated. The RIF process only is for employees sitting in positions. So I felt it's important for us to note vacancies, not just positions that are being eliminated, because it does go into the savings across the board. So the total of the 16.85 FTE, it is a 13.24% FTE reduction for certificated staff. We also have a reduction in force for administrators. We have one layoff for our administrator, and also we had a 0.5 FTE administrator elimination because it is currently vacant. That resulted in a 10% reduction of FTE. Our classified reduction in force was approximately 24.997 FTE and vacancies of 11.62. The total of these FTEs is about 25% of the total classified FTE reductions on the district side. We have heard it very loud and clear that they'd like to share that we have also made significant reductions on the PCOE side that directly impact our district office staff. Unfortunately, we've struggled with getting these positions filled, so 4.9 of those vacancies are vacant, have been vacant since I've started. And so those positions will be eliminated as well. That includes an administrative assistant in my business office and a program account, or an account clerk in my office. And so that is a 24.35% reduction of our overall PCOE classified positions. So as you can see, the percentage base across our areas are actually pretty equitably, at least when it comes to, we don't have that certificated in the district office, so I can't share that classification. Another thing that was in here was the reduction of home to school transportation, focusing just on transporting our students that are identified through required home to school transportation, like our special education students. The vacancies and the RIF process were already included in the savings above, but the $2 million are the actual operational costs of home to school transportation. That just still leaves about $1 million that we're keeping in the budget to maintain our special education transportation. I would like to point out that this does impact only about 12% of our student population from home to school transportation. Another consolidation plan was the recombining of Alder and Pio. The savings here have already been accounted for in the reductions because it was one administrator, one admin assistant, and then class size reductions and utility custodial support. We are not able currently to project the additional savings from that because we don't know until we do it. We'll start seeing those additional savings once we go into the 26-27 school year and things are realized. Additional reductions, we will continue to look at all of our contracts. I've already found multiple that we can save on, that we're canceling, that we're getting rid of to ensure that we are maximizing every dollar that is spent. They'll be reviewing consulting agreements, limiting travel, conferences, limiting discretionary budgets for sites and departments. We're reviewing overtime and extra duty. We're looking at moving to stipends to be able to budget better for those really hard to budget things for. Extra duty and substitute costs are incredibly hard to budget for because it just depends on what happens. So if we're able to move towards a stipend-based program, we can actually budget for what we think is gonna happen that year. Instead of just, we got a timesheet, so now we increase budget. And lastly, you are saving money from me leaving. So just note you are in capable hands with your next CBO stepping in, but I had to make sure that you were acknowledged that there is savings from going back to your salary schedule for your CBO. So total projections of reductions in this plan estimate to be about $8 million. This $8 million of reductions you will see in the March board meeting for second interim report. Realized savings though, of actually seeing how this all plays out, you'll see that more in the 26-27 first interim. Because we call it the summer shuffle, the staffing shuffle, the enrollment, knowing what contracts we're gonna need for the final year. All of that stuff really comes to play after the school year starts. So when we are making the projections, we're remembering that budgets are projections, right? They are not actuals. So what about the remaining $1.5 million from the goal? We are short about $1.5 million, but these additional reductions may need to be determined in 26-27. But again, we're really taking into account, you know, how this all will come to play. There is a lot of bumping that happens with layoffs where we don't actually know the employee that will be impacted because of the bilateral agreement language. So at this time, our budget is conservative in what that looks like so that we don't end up me being back here saying, oops, we didn't plan enough, we haven't actually solved our problem. So we're always being very conservative in what this looks like, and as we get realized numbers, we'll update the budget, and make sure that it's very, very transparent and active as much as we can. Oops. I know, only 4 slides, I swear. So a reminder that these are projections. Budgeting is a projection snapshot of time, the most up-to-date information that we have right now. So as the information updates, so does our budget. For example, like I just mentioned, we have bumping rights that come in through because of our bilateral agreements. So even though we know the positions we're eliminating, we don't actually know the employee and the cost of that employee until we go through the entire layoff process. And so that may not be realized until the summer, and then we do summer shuffle, where people just choose to make other decisions during summer, and then it shuffles again. So the staffing needs will really become more realized when we see the 26-27 first interim budget and how it all comes together. We are always in a budgeting cycle of current year, prior year, and future year. So what we're talking about right now is future year. We're talking about 26-27. The decisions made in a fiscal recovery plan are the impacts for 26-27. We will continue to evaluate and make additional reductions in current year. Already you'll see that in second interim of reductions of discretionary spending accounts and making sure we're spending our restricted funds where we can and trying to make those savings for the 25-26 school year at that ending fund balance. We're working really hard to make sure there's savings there. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was our fiscal stabilization plan. And questions or concerns?
I have a question.
Yes.
When you guys do this analysis, do you look at like other models, other districts in the state of similar size from the amount of students, the amount of schools, budgets that they have, and compare it? Has any of that ever happened in modeling, looking at that stuff?
Stephanie?
Oh, you don't have to talk about it?
Yeah, public comment, sorry. Yeah, well, it's public comment, so we don't give answers, basically. But actually, in all of your public comments, we're happy to respond to them either by email or conversation or whatever outside the public meeting. So please know that. Yes?
So my question is,
You can ask a question.
I heard you make reference to the listening meetings that happen, gathering your community data. And
from some of those meetings, for example, to talk about transparency and talk about really trying to improve that relationship with the community, with the information that is being given. After a Quincy listening meeting, there was Plymouth Sun posted that people could fundraise for libraries if that's what they wanted. And we had conversations about that, about how it's really hard for staff to hear that they've been laid off in Plymouth Sun. And as a promise of transparency, you admitted that that was very unprofessional, and in fact, moving forward, there would be a strive to be transparent and improve communication. And so I guess my question, not question, to you would be, how is the communication about this, besides posting the numbers on the website, how are staff going to be assured that professionalism will be followed in the past? Because this time we didn't learn from the Sun, we got to read about it on Facebook. And so in mending those community relationships, I think it's really important that the transparency happens in real time with real facts and not on Facebook posts. And saying things were just taken out of context in the Sun, but
Thank you.
I just want to make a quick comment about the student-teacher ratio, class sizes at the high school level, being the one doing scheduling. It is so different scheduling, trying to schedule junior high teachers who are teaching junior high and high school. And when you reduce the sections and trying to get the kids in the classes they need to be and schedules they need to be, it's not like, oh, so this class only has 8, so it just needs to go. So we're just going to have one section of this. When we only have one section of a math class, that means everything else has to be exactly to get all the kids in that one math class. It's not, I mean, it's so different. And I really encourage you to come talk with us about what that actually looks like, to try to get kids where they need to be, to get the classes they need to get their A through G requirements, to get their graduation requirements. It's not simply, oh, that class needs to go because there's only 10 kids in it, there's only 22 kids in it. It's near impossible, and it's like giving me anxiety just thinking about trying to do the scheduling this year, reducing the sections we're reducing. And so, please, take that into consideration.
Thank you.
I don't like
Comment?
yelling, so.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I have comments, and it seems like these next couple of agenda items kind of go hand in hand, so I'll just make my comments now. But thank you for your presentation, and there's more data included in that slideshow than there is in the actual plan. So I would ask that that data is somehow incorporated, whether it be an appendix or supporting information to this plan. But, you know, I'm just going to highlight under the reduction in force, consistent with current enrollment trends, multi-year projections, and the district's guiding principles. The Board of Trustees will adopt a reduction in force resolutions. That was the first enrollment data that I've seen presented. And granted, I haven't been to all the meetings, but it doesn't align with publicly available data, and it doesn't align with the audit that you accepted earlier in this meeting that says average daily attendance has increased by 47 ADA over the past 2 years. And I know ADA isn't equal to enrollment, and it's just, I think, important to provide clear data and clear rationale and talk about alternatives that may have been considered in the development of this plan and how it's actually supported by data and by the district's guiding principles. Because it doesn't seem that public involvement or public comments were included into the plan, as demonstrated by earlier comments tonight, and it doesn't seem that it aligns with the district's guiding principles. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm not even sure if this is true or not, but I've heard this, and I still don't understand the difference between the county side or the district side, right? County Office of Education and the district. But I have heard, and again, I don't know if it's true or not, but the county office actually has a surplus of possibly $1 or $2 million. And so I find it interesting that the county would have a surplus of that amount, and yet on the district side, it's obviously in dire straits. So my question is basically, if that information possibly might be true, is there a possibility of the county using some of their surplus to help the district? Is that a possibility or not? Again, I'm just asking, I don't expect an answer, but even if that were the case, was that even considered, or is there any consideration of doing that?
Thank you. So for the fiscal stabilization plan, as county administrator, I approved the revised version for that action item, or for that action item. The next item is our cash flow report, and that's Stephanie again.
Yes, so this is just a standing item on our agenda to make sure that we're staying on top of our cash flow assumptions and making sure that we're able to meet our obligations. And if there's ever a indication of needing an additional drawdown or support, that's really public and happens very quickly and seen early. At this time, we are able to meet our cash flow obligations in the 25-26 school year. Please note that we will be going cash insolvent again if no action is taken. October of next year, we will not be able to make payroll again next year due to our structural deficit. Yep. Our next item is E-rate. E-rate is a program where we get reimbursed up to 60% of category expenses for technology use across our district. I will say the E-rate formula is getting smaller and smaller every year, but we are able to have E-rate for 26-27 for our category 2 for the 25-26 school year. So recommendation for accepting the bid proposals as presented for our category 2 E-rate process.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next Oh, that's it. Oh, that is you. Okay. Any comment on E-rate? All right, as county administrator, I approve the E-rate. What is it?
Proposals.
A proposal. Okay, thank you. And our next item is our mid-year position elimination. This is an action item, and this has to do with position control. Do you want to explain that, or?
Sure. As mentioned, if a position is vacant, we don't need to lay it off. So part along with our layoff process is that there's a vacant position that exists in our system, but it's not planned on being filled for the remainder of this year or next year. We eliminate them by board action. Same action for if we choose to add a position. This is how we keep a strong finger pulse and management of our position control so that we know it's done with accuracy and public input and board action. So these positions are vacant and will be eliminated active after this meeting. If action.
Thank you. Any comment on position control? This is the easy stuff because it doesn't really affect people, it's just positions that are updated. So with that, I approve the action to update position control.
Resolution
Roll call vote. Yes. All right. Our next item has to do with personnel transactions. This is also a action item, and Jennifer, this has been in your packet, so this is all in the packet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we are seeking approval for the personnel items as presented.
Okay, and this is in the packet. Is there any comment? All right. Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
staffing cuts to my site and sites around this district are not only going to affect the classroom outcomes, they're also going to affect those extracurricular activities, like, for instance, with Scott, and his GSA is such a good guidance for us. And the other thing is kids coming to school and want to go to those schools. So I urge you to continue to look for other ways to find funds. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Okay, so on the personnel transactions, as county administrator, I approve the actions for personnel items. And then item B is reductions or discontinuance of particular kinds of services. And item B is for certificated staff. We had a number of comments earlier on that, and absolutely understand both the certificated as well as the classified view. We're hoping that as this fleshes out, that it affects the least amount of people going forward. So with that is an action item, or are there additional comments that we haven't heard? All right, thank you. And so on the certificated side, as county administrator, I approve the action of reduction of discontinuance of particular kinds of services for certificated.
This resolution requires a roll call vote from the Administrator Devine.
Yes. And the second, C, is a resolution 1697, reduction of discontinuance of classified services for lack of work or lack of funds for the 26-27 year. This is an action item as well. Are there public comments that haven't been? All right, thank you. As county administrator, I approve those that action item for classified services for lack of work or lack of funds.
This resolution requires a roll call vote from the Administrator Devine.
Yes. And then the last one in that group is administrative personnel. This is also an action item. Any comment? Thank you. As county administrator, I approve the action for administrative personnel reduction.
This resolution requires a roll call vote from the Administrator Devine.
Yes. And then the last item is our consent agenda. This is the PUSD regular meetings of January 14th, check register for the month of January 26th, PUSD service contracts, field trips, and surplus. And so for that action item, I approve as county administrator. No future agenda items, so at this point, we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
You guys have to drive back.